Tonight we're looking at the latest in the Jack Eichel saga. Is a trade to the Rangers imminent? There's a lot of chatter on social media today to suggest maybe that's the case. We have an update on the secrecy of the New York Islanders and what deal they might be working on, and a few more signings as well. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some more signings, a few trade rumors to talk about here today, as well, like I said, including like Jack Eichel. There's a lot of weird things going on social media today that I wanted to address and discuss a little bit further here. I know some of you might be getting tired of talking about the Eichel situation, but unfortunately it's a hot topic, and it's something we're likely going to be discussing a lot until the saga is over. Now, first up, before we jump into that stuff, the signings. Of course, I did a big signing video earlier. We had several more significant signings earlier, including Darnell Nurse, Vince Dunn, Adam Pelech. That was all discussed in a previous video. Some mega contracts handed out for those guys, but now we have several players that have signed deals that are more like one-year, two-way deals for some younger, less established players, including a couple of guys with the Anaheim Ducks, which would be youngsters Sam Steele in Isaac Lunderstrom, a couple of guys who had, I'd say, promising starts of their young NHL careers, but have kind of not really fully developed into what we thought they'd be as of yet. Doesn't mean that they're not going to be solid NHL players. I think there's still a real solid potential and promise for them, but obviously their ELCs are over now, and on their second contract to get a one-year, two-way deal is not really ideal what you're looking for, but in those situations, that's kind of what they kind of deserve. Essentially, they're getting their qualifying offer, so we'll see how that goes for them. We also saw that the Seattle Kraken signed Cole Lynn as well, another one-year, two-way deal. Of course, Lynn was the selection of Seattle from the Vancouver Canucks, so he'll likely be looking here for a larger role as well. So his deal, like the other two, are $874,000. The Rangers have signed prospect who's been in the organization a while now. That's Ty Ronning. He gets another one-year, two-way deal, $750,000 at the NHL level. I believe he's at $75,000 at the AHL level. So again, another player who, at this point, it's hard to say if he has an NHL future, but has been around the professional hockey scene now for a while. And the Coyotes have signed a prospect that they just recently acquired and not swapped into with the LA Kings. They had a couple of prospects going each way, and that's Boko Imama from the former Sea Dog, former LA King, former Ontario Reign. Gets a one-year, two-way deal with the Coyotes on a split contract where he gets $750,000 at the NHL level or $100,000 at the AHL level. I mean, he had a pretty solid junior career and has had some good AHL success, but hasn't really had much of an NHL chance yet. So a team like Arizona might be a good spot for him to go, where they've basically torn down a large part of that roster and have continued to, or will continue to do so throughout this season, as there's still lots of trade rumors around several other players that we've talked about here recently, including Dvorak and Kessel, and I wouldn't rule out others as well. So that they're really interested in really stockpiling the picks and prospects and kind of starting over. Now, as I mentioned here, we do have some trade stuff I want to talk about when it comes to the Rangers and the Islanders. But first, one thing we've been neglecting to do here is acknowledge our channel sponsor. So we do need to take a moment here and pause and acknowledge Manscaped. Proud to be sponsored by Manscaped. Of course, with Manscaped, we have a special offer here for all Top Shelf Hockey viewers, where you can get 20% off and free shipping on all orders at Manscaped.com. Now, of course, Manscaped just launched a brand new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is a fantastic product. They've taken a level up here, even again with the skin-safe replaceable blades. It's waterproof, it's wireless charging, has a travel lock on it, as well as a nice light so you don't miss what you're doing. So certainly a terrific product. Now, many people associate Manscaped with their trimmers, which is certainly kind of their top product, but they do have a lot of other great options as well, including what they call the Weed Whacker, which is another trimmer for your ears and nose. And they have a variety of deodorants and sprays as well, which also keep you fresh and are terrific as well. So certainly Manscaped has a lot to offer, and we certainly highly recommend all of their products. So check out manscaped.com and use promo code TSH for 20% off and free shipping. So thanks very much for watching the Manscaped promotional video. I do greatly appreciate that. As I mentioned, they've been super awesome to the channel. They have great products. Of course, there'll be a link in the promo code will be in the pinned comment down below. Just where I've been away on vacation, I've been meaning to kind of squeeze that in a little bit more than we have here so far this month. So certainly appreciate their support. Now, when it comes to the Islanders and the Rangers, to start off here with a quick update on Lou Lamoriello and the secrecy that been going on here with the Isles. Of course, we did get Isles news today, which was shocking in a way, but of course, different scenario because it involved RFA defenseman Adam Pelech, who, of course, they avoid arbitration to get a massive 8-year deal at $5.75 million. So that part for them is huge. It's really the only Isles contract that we've had announced so far. So we know that there's rumored and likely handshake, verbal, maybe even pen to paper. I'm not sure how formal it is here as of yet, but the league hasn't announced anything either. But we know that Kyle Palmieri, Casey Cizikas have not signed contracts elsewhere. So they're likely coming back. We know that Travis Zajac is rumored to be signing a 1-year deal and returning here too. We know that they've got Pelech under contract, and we know that they need to do Sorokin. But one big thing that they've been waiting on is there's been rumored that they're making a big trade, or trying to, in that they don't want to get all these contracts announced because Lou is, obviously secretive and doesn't want other teams to know their cap situation to try to use that to any kind of leverage in the negotiation. At least that's the theory of Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet, which does make some sense knowing how Lou likes to operate. So, going on that premise, we've talked about the fact that they could be targeting Vladimir Tarasenko. They're believed to be one of 3 teams interested. But as I mentioned in the last time we talked about them a few days ago, either yesterday or the day before, that I would not be surprised at all to find out that it's actually multiple players and maybe even something completely different that they're working on here. I do think Tarasenko is a player that they're interested in and have had conversations about. Not entirely convinced it's exactly what they do. I think there is some concerns, but they're also, kind of balancing out the concerns and the interest at the same time. However, there could be other players, and we know that they had to lose a significant piece of their blue line this year with Nick Leddy to shed the salary to make all these other moves that, obviously most of them aren't officially announced yet, but we know they're basically done. So replacing a blue liner is something that could be also highly on the radar here. So it may not be a Tarasenko, may not be a Johnny Gaudreau. There was some reports from an Islanders podcast suggesting that it could be a top defenseman, such as like a Cam Fowler in Anaheim. Now, to me, that also does make a lot of sense. Like Nick Leddy was basically a cap victim here. I don't think the Islanders really entirely hated his game. Sometime, though, in the near future, they would have had to replace him, and it might not have been him that was re-signed. They might have gone out through trade or free agency to find that next player to take over for him, depending on where their youngsters are at. And, getting a guy like Fowler or a comparable would make sense if they can get it for the right price and make the right deal here. So the Islanders' secret deal that's been rumored to be working on here for a while could actually turn out to be a defenseman. It might not actually be a forward after all. So we'll have to wait and see once we know more information on that. But that's the latest on that front. Now, when it comes to the Rangers and Eichel, some stuff kind of got riled up on Twitter today, and we'll see what comes from it. As of right now, there's been nothing officially announced as I record this video, which is Friday night at 9:50 Atlantic time. So obviously that's like 8:50 Eastern time. So we'll see what happens here if something goes down this weekend. But Steve Valiquette, now of course Steve Valiquette's a former player and analyst for the Rangers, puts out on Twitter that his spidey senses are tingling in that, regarding Eichel and the Rangers, and I'll show you the tweet here on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, that got everybody going because he is connected enough that he would have people talking to him, he would have some inside information, he probably had some intel. So what does he know that the rest of us don't know? Now, as I've talked about before, we know that the Rangers are a team that have been rumored and talked about being interested, but there's been mixed signals for quite some time. Like Larry Brooks just reported and even mentioned again that off of the Valiquette tweet that reports are showing that Chris Drury, the Rangers GM, has been telling various agents that he's talked to about different potential deals that they're not really all that interested in Eichel. So, at the same time, though, like I said before, and I'll say it again, you cannot take what NHL GMs say at face value because they don't want anybody to know what they're playing for. Like, they don't want anybody to know their hand. They don't want anybody to know their plan. Like, it's just not how they do business here. They do have to tell some, minor lies or shade the truth a little bit, if you will, so that they can get an advantage that way. Difficult to say if Chris Drury is being truthful or not. I'm going to say probably not because I've got a lot of sources that I follow and that I've talked to myself even to some degree that all indicate that the Rangers are very, very interested in Eichel. So when we seen the Valakat news posted on Twitter, it kind of got everything riled up. Now, there was also something I wanted to make a correction from the video earlier today, because the information that was being reported, I reported on myself, but that information has now changed. So there's a Jack Eichel Twitter account that popped up today. And John Vogel, who covers the Sabres, who writes for The Athletic, had put a tweet out indicating that it has been confirmed that it was a fake account, even though it was Twitter verified. Now, the only thing on the Twitter profile for the player was just that he had the American flag, so he was an American hockey player, had his number, no affiliation to an NHL team, didn't say the Sabres, didn't have nothing, and there was no tweets as of yet. He only followed one account, which was the NHL's main account, and that was it. It was gaining followers, of course, because of the name, and that was all we knew. Like I said, Vogel reported that it was a fake account, so I passed that information along and said not to pay any attention to it, that it appears to be a fake, and that Twitter will likely take it down once they get more of this information. But then, not long after I posted that, the account itself had its first tweet, which was the retweet of what Vogel posted, saying that it's been verified by sources that it's actually legit because it's him himself. So he claims that it's real, and then Vogel apparently did get information later to confirm that what he was told the first time was not correct, and that it is a real legit account. So I just wanted to make that known. Correct, of course, if I ever give out any information here that turns out to be false or any kind of misleading at all, then I certainly want to correct that, just like any news outlet of any sort would do that. So that's that. But obviously, what people believe here to be a Ranger deal for Eichel, if this is going to happen, I've said this before, and I know every time I say this, I get people saying, no, it has to be this, has to be that. It's usually Sabres fans that are insisting on what the package has to include. And I understand he's your star player. I understand he's your franchise player, number 2 overall pick. You're probably not happy that he wants out, and you want to see an awesome return so that your team can get back on track sooner or later. I get all that. Trust me, I've been through this. As a Senators fan, I've seen so many guys leave town. Some guys you're happy with the value they got. Sometimes you're not. I understand pain more than most people because of what they've been through in the last 3 to 4 years. So don't get me wrong, I completely get it. But here's the reality, is that teams are not likely going to be giving up what the rumored asking price is that Kevin Adams has been looking for. And it's a matter of time before he has to pull the trigger, because of they can't go into camp with this situation. It's just a fact that they can't do that. It's just not. It's going to get too messy. It's already messy. The players pissed. The agents are pissed. They're at a standstill here, and they're going to have to do the best they can, which is ultimately still going to be pretty decent, but it might not be as good as some thought when this first got made public that he wanted to leave town. So if you look at what a Ranger deal, if it goes down like Valakat and others are saying that they think it's going to here, it's likely going to include goaltender Alexander Georgiev. It's already been reported earlier this offseason that he was welcome to a fresh start, and he'd even talked to the team about a possible trade too. I'm not sure they were really overly thrilled and we're going to definitely move him, but it's been reported that he's open to that. They have 2 good goaltenders. The Sabres really need a goaltender for the future, so it makes sense that they would push for that anyways. They're not getting Shesterkin. There's no doubt that's going to happen. So Georgiev was going to be the goalie. They're going to have a couple possible young players in there, which are going to likely be at least 1 defender, maybe 2, but a couple of guys that likely are not going to be in there is Schneider and Lundqvist. I know if they did change their mind and include one or the other, it would be Schneider. I think Lundqvist is higher on the Rangers' priority list than Schneider, but I don't think they really want to move either. The more likely one to be included that would be, I would assume, acceptable to the Sabres would be Zach Jones. So I'm going to say Jones and Georgiev are going to be likely 2 of the pieces. You're going to get Philip Hedl. Philip Hedl's been trying again to be a center. I'm not entirely convinced he's going to be a center. He could be a winger, but he could be a good offensive player in a top 6 role for the Sabres. I mean, he'll play higher in the lineup there than he would in New York. So, of course, he's still young enough that they would be interested there. Wouldn't be shocked to see Vitaly Kravtsov included. I mean, he's a young, dynamic offensive player, former first-round pick himself, and then you're likely going to get a first-round pick either in 22 or in 23. So, I mean, like I said, and it may not be exactly that or all that. I'm not saying that this is 100% what the deal is going to be, but at the end of the day here, these are the pieces that, from what I've seen and followed enough reliable sources, and I do have one person I know myself that is connected to the Rangers, what they've heard. And of course, like I said, it's all just speculation. I'm not saying this is a fact, but that there's certain players that they will not budge on. And if that information changes, well, that's going to be a game changer, and it could change the deal and accelerate things happening. But another player that I think the Sabres would be high on, and right now the Rangers have shown no interest in including, but if they decided that they really want to get this done and get this player they could include to get that done and accelerate things would be Kakko. Now, I don't think the Rangers want to do that. I don't think ownership would be fond of that. But if it means getting an Eichel deal done, that could be the difference. Like, one of these teams that want Eichel might have to blink and throw in a higher level prospect that they would prefer not to do. Like, that means, like, if the Ducks come calling and say, we'll throw Trevor Zegras in, that's going to get things accelerated. If the Wild come calling and say, we're going to include Rossi and Boldy, that's going to get things moving. But the Rangers right now, like I said, that's been the rumor deal all along. They don't want to include Lafreniere. They don't want to include Kakko. They don't want to include Nils Lundqvist. They would prefer not to include Braden Schneider. But like I said, based on what I'd heard, I think there's some give on that. And then, like, Kravtsov, I think, would be available. Hedl, Georgiev, Jones, which is still a pretty decent package. First-round pick, maybe a second-round pick. Things like that would be what would make up the package here. Now, of course, if they insist on the Sabres retaining some salary, which I don't think they're totally crazy about, but I think I've seen reports saying that they are willing to talk about it, but it's going to put the price up. So instead of getting at least 4, possibly 5 pieces, you're probably looking at throwing in another piece there for helping them out with the salary. It's just that simple. So if the Sabres want the Rangers, to do that, then they're looking at Kravtsov, Jones, and possibly Schneider as your young players with Hedl and Georgiev in their first, or something to that effect. But if they retain salary, they'll get the 5 pieces that they were rumored to be looking for, I think. But it depends on how much of that salary they're willing to eat. I don't see it being more than a couple $1 million. We'll see what happens here. Obviously, this is just the latest on the situation. It's going to be dragging out here for a while. But like I said, the guys talking about it on Twitter today certainly know and are connected more than most of us are, so they must have some kind of intel to suggest that things are moving in the right direction. So let me know what your thoughts are. We'll discuss further in the comments. Tomorrow's our travel day from vacation heading home, so I'm not sure exactly what time we'll have content posted, and the next video posted may or may not be from the road. It may be once we arrive back home, so we'll see here. So stay tuned for that, and we'll update you guys once we have some more news to discuss. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, signings, everything on this crazy offseason on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.